Good morning. It is Tuesday, September 1st, 2015. This is your morning edition on I-24 News. Coming up later today, another ancient temple is damaged at the hands of ISIS in Syria, as the extreme Islamist fighters in Iraq are seen burning 4 Shia men alive in one of their latest propaganda videos. Hundreds of refugees arrive in Munich and Vienna by train from Hungary, as Austrian police impose strict measures, spot-checking vehicles. All that as an EU emergency meeting is set for next week to deal with the refugee crisis the continent is facing. And later on the show, September 1st is here and students around the world are going back to school. We're going to go live to Jerusalem to take a closer look from there at both Arab and Israeli children doing it together. Good morning, I'm Yael Levi, and we begin in the Anbar province of western Iraq today, where a graphic execution video emerged yesterday purporting to show 4 Shia spies being burned alive by Islamic State militants. The latest, yet again, in a string of descriptive propaganda video, is also in Anbar. 200 residents of the town of Rutba, near the Jordanian border, are said to have been detained by the group in an unknown location following clashes Saturday. Now, across the border also, erased in Syria by the extreme Sunni group, the UN said today another ancient temple in Syria has been destroyed in a blast. Satellite images released today do confirm earlier reports of an explosion at the ruins of Palmyra, which is held by militants of the Islamic State. IS also destroyed the smaller Baal Shamin temple in that same ancient city, also known as the Pearl of the Desert, situated 130 miles northeast of Damascus. Large, horrible losses, historic losses. In the meantime, though, the battle to beat ISIS is creating strange alliances that seem to be forming. Egypt, for example, is trying to toe the line between the Shiite axis of Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah, and the opposing Sunni forces led by Saudi Arabia, as it's trying to actually gesture to Syria, so it seems, that it wants it in the fight, or Bashar Assad's Syria. Let's take a look at the following report and break it down from there.
Like its shifting desert sands, the Middle East's geopolitical landscape is constantly being reshaped. The latest alliance, a reported rapprochement between Egypt and Syria, rooted in combating the Islamic State.
Relations between Syria and Egypt were never cut off, and we continue to hear brotherly rhetoric from Egyptian institutions. It is not in the open as we wish, but it's there. There is a lot of pressure on Egypt not to assume its natural role in the region.
Indeed, Sisi must play a delicate balancing game. Often, the interests of the Shiite Damascus-Tehran-Beirut axis are diametrically opposed to those of Cairo's traditional Sunni Gulf backers. Foremost is vehemently anti-Assad Saudi Arabia, which has propped up Sisi's government with billions of dollars. In the middle is Russia, which hosted Sisi at the Kremlin earlier this month. With U.S.-Egyptian relations strained, Cairo has turned to Moscow, a staunch Assad ally, for support. As a quid pro quo, President Putin has evidently persuaded Sisi to enhance ties with the Syrian regime. According to one Israeli report, Egypt has even agreed to supply Assad with Russian-funded weapons. In the meantime, the Islamic State continues to cast its black shadow over Syria. This weekend in Palmyra, it destroyed part of the Temple of Bel, constructed in 32 AD. The IS recently also razed the ancient Baal Shamin temple, an act the UN's cultural agency called the war crime. It is part and parcel of the terror group's effort to erase history, a reality which, ironically, is motivating Egypt and Syria to strengthen their shared one.
Let's go first straight to Erbil in Iraq. We're joined by journalist Mohammed Asali. Mohammed, good morning to you.
Good morning to you too.
I'm assuming that everybody in Iraq and as well as in around the area are hearing of the latest destructions of ISIS when it comes to the battle. Because even if we're talking about bizarre alliances such as Egypt and Syria, whatnot, when it comes to the campaign against ISIS, is there a feeling, not just where you are, but by the people from that region who are fighting ISIS, that the battle is being won, or that this is a foe that's just not going away and not enough is being given from the international community as is needed?
Well, there is definitely a great deal of frustration in terms of people's expectation, and ISIS has proved to be much more enduring than people expected or hoped at the beginning. And we should not also forget that beside the brutal campaign that it has conducted in Iraq in terms of killing and massacring people, ISIS has also destroyed some of Iraq's culture and historical heritage and archaeological sites as well.
Now, when it comes to frustration, when you say frustration, and the feeling you're in, you're basically in Iraqi Kurdistan, if I may call it that way, and I'm sure that many Kurds would be happy to hear it that way. Is there a feeling that not enough is being done by the international community, that just the so-called forces on the ground, I'm not speaking of the Iraqi army, but the Peshmerga, that they themselves feel that they're not enough?
Absolutely. If you speak about the Peshmerga, for example, or the Kurdish forces in Syria, they have been repeatedly calling for more international engagement and involvement. And although there has been a fair enough of international involvement in that sense, but it has definitely not been up to the level that people or the armed forces in this region would hope for.
Would hope for. I hope that you can stay with us, Mohammed, because I want to go to them. Our guest in studio, independent intelligence analyst Benjamin Decker. Thank you for being with us this morning. If you're listening to what Mohammed has said, before we go to these strange alliances that are surfacing right now, why is ISIS winning? I mean, can I say that they're winning?
Yeah, I think there's a major issue in Baghdad right now. We're having protests across the country to discuss two main issues: corruption and the failure of the central government to provide the provinces with services. This not only includes the army, it includes electricity, it includes finance, it includes everything else. So ultimately, the Islamic State is fighting against a corrupted and broken country who doesn't really have the ability to fight properly. And at the same time, we have an international community that is very cautious about putting boots on the ground and launching offensive attacks against the Islamic State, so it only allows them to grow.
And when we look at Syria, because the headline of the story this morning is the destruction, the horrific destruction of these ancient archaeological treasures, so reminiscent of Afghanistan 2001 and the Taliban and what they did there. But when we're looking at Syria and these gestures, supposedly, I'm seeing Bashar al-Assad speak of his connection to al-Sisi, and I'm thinking that al-Sisi probably wants to, hide it, well, shoot him right now for just mentioning that. But can we look at new alliances such as Syria, Bashar al-Assad, and al-Sisi in the divisions of the Middle East to fight ISIS?
I mean, look, to be honest, Sisi has been fighting the Islamic State in the Sinai Peninsula since November of last year. So in that sense, the ties are not completely illogical, but I think the main player here is Russia. They've been building new satellite operating rooms and control centers in northwestern Syria at an increasing rate over the last couple of months. And given Egypt's discovery of these large natural gas fields, it would only make sense that in the coming 10 to 20 years, Sisi would try to sell that in bulk to Assad and profit generously. So you have the military issue, and then you also have the economics, and ultimately we could see a lot more rapprochement here. Approachment,
yeah, but not only that, but Russia also is trying to become the main player when it comes to the battle against ISIS, which makes one wonder, is that something that, in Iraq, is that something that the Kurds are going to look at to get assistance from the Russians rather than from the Americans? Or are we looking at a theoretical spat as that down the line?
No one can count out Russia doing something along those lines. I think
because we've seen Russia in Egypt, we've seen Russia, we've seen Russia pushing the Iran deal. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, one only has to look at the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who served as the KGB's Arab liaison in the 70s and 80s, to understand that this Middle East policy is no different than the Cold War policy that Russia had in the past.
In the past, and that they were but all that I think is regardless of what is is being said in studios as such. I think Mohammed Saleh, if you're still with us, when it comes to the situation right now in Iraq. I mean, in Erbil, you guys, I mean, that's the place where ISIS has not approached, has not arrived. When it comes to other places in Iraq, as we've discussed Syria, is Iraq standing? Is there an approachment to Baghdad? Is it something that we're looking at, you know, a country that has already fallen pound, that will not sustain itself against the Islamic State fighters?
Well, I can say that despite the initial setbacks that the Iraqi forces experienced, and also the setback that the Peshmerga here experienced for a while, the fighting forces, whether in the form of the Iraqi army or the Shia paramilitary groups or the Kurdish Peshmerga forces, they have been able to hold their ground now. And not only that, they have been also quite successful in pushing ISIS back in some areas. So it's really clear as of now that it's going to be a long war and that it's not going to end anytime soon. But a lot of people have also come to have more or increasing faith in these armed forces which are fighting ISIS.
That they have, they lost their faith? I'm sorry, I didn't get the last one. Or having more faith in the...
I said they have come to have more faith.
To have more faith, actually, in the forces fighting ISIS, the forces on the ground. And Benjamin Decker, when you're listening to this, I'm just when everybody's saying, the American president is saying, Europe is saying it's going to be a long war, long war. What does that mean? Long war as in what? Are we looking at a decade of a battle against IS? Isn't it something, to me, and I'm going to say this again, at the end of the day, the Islamic State, you know, when this all began, looked like about several thousand people on a pickup truck with machine guns, who are now, you know, they're not just terrorizing, they almost control, you know, half of the Middle East. Long war, theoretically, as an analyst, what are we talking about?
Theoretically, we're looking at a legitimate 15 to 20-year fight against ISIS. I think that in Iraq, we could see something more along the lines of 5 to 10, right. Given the fact that we have a lot of international actors, as well as the Peshmerga, who are a moderately functional fighting force. If there can be a significant effort to improve the Iraqi military and root out corruption, that timetable could be expedited. However, in Syria, the number of disorganized actors and the inability for the international community to actually push forward any of the armed factions.
Or decide one agenda or, yeah.
Absolutely.
Or
so,
right.
you know, with Syria, we're looking at 15 to 20 years, unfortunately.
I'm just thinking of the millions of refugees that are already swarming the world just from that region, and that's terrifying and sad for me. But Mohammed Salia from Erbil in Iraq, I want to thank you for being with us this morning. Benjamin Decker, same to you. Always a pleasure to have you with us as we move along. We're going to move along because it is the time of day, and the one in my life, I'm looking at your color.
What do you think?
I'm liking the burgundy thing, working with the, here to scare Benjamin's like, where am I? Ami Kaufman joins us daily to discuss the news you missed while scanning the headlines, and what did we miss?
Good morning. Yeah, we're going to start with China, where they have arrested about 200 people for spreading rumors online. Two of the rumors that they allegedly circulated were that a man jumped to his death in Beijing due to the recent stock market crash, and at least 1,300 people were killed in the Tianjin blast. These are the two rumors that we are hearing about. We have a report about it. Let's check it out.
Let's take a look.
The Chinese economy continues to shake, with Asian stocks set for the worst monthly losses in at least 3 years, and authorities are looking for some new targets. Nearly 200 people have been punished for spreading online rumors regarding recent major news events, such as the government crackdown and the Tianjin explosions. Chinese Ministry of Public Security said the offenders has misled society and the public, generated and spread fearful statements, and even used the opportunity to maliciously concoct rumors to attack the Communist Party and the national leaders. In a video posted on Chinese media sites, the suspects are seen confessing and expressing remorse for the allegations.
My behavior did much harm to the country. I shouldn't have spread such words. I was wrong.
This behavior is very stupid, and I also didn't realize that it could cause such severe results. I didn't consider my responsibility and took it casually to the internet and thought I can do anything on the internet.
According to Chinese sources, the rumors disseminated included one claiming a Beijing resident jumped to his death due to the stock market slump, and another saying 1,300 people had died in the Tianjin explosions. But this mass punishment also raises questions about freedom of journalism in the country. The Chinese Xinhua news agency reported that a reporter named Wang Xialo, who works at the prestigious Caijing business magazine, was detained and confessed that his writing about Chinese stock market was, quote, based on hearsay and his own subjective guesses. It is still unknown if Xialo had legal assistance, but it seems the panic in China is spreading beyond the trading room.
And what is terrifying to me, and I'm sorry I'm going to have to say this out loud, is the fact that China is not so well known for its civil rights or human rights activism. I'm just thinking, first of all, I know the report says that he confessed.
Right.
You know,
confessed, or is it confessed?
I know. I'm just horrified by what, because everybody needs somebody to blame. It's scary what this man is. It's really terrifying. Yes.
Off to our region in Israel, there was a raid last night. The IDF conducted a raid last night in Jenin. There were some reports that a few Palestinians were killed, and that we're not sure about, but definitely one Israeli policeman was wounded. And to clear things up, we do have a reporter, I-24 news reporter in Jenin.
In Jenin, in which Shai Ben-Ari, I-24 news reporter, with us from the West Bank. Shai, good morning to you.
Yes, we are here in the Palestinian city of Jenin in the northern West Bank, not far from the Jenin refugee camp, where overnight a major Israeli security operation was conducted when basically IDF forces as well as Shin Bet and police forces came in to arrest Majdi Abu al-Hejja, a senior Hamas operative within living inside this Jenin refugee camp. When the forces arrived, their clashes in fact broke out between residents and the Israeli forces. It lasted for several hours, with 5 Palestinians being injured as a result of tear gas. One Israeli security force member was also injured and sustained medium-grade injuries. The home of this Hamas operative was eventually destroyed as a result of this operation intentionally by the Israeli security forces. Another home also sustained damage during this operation, which lasted well into the morning.
Well, thank you, Shai Ben-Ari from the West Bank, reporting to us on that story that developed overnight.
We're going to stay with Israel and at least our area of Gaza. Egypt is going to start digging along the Gaza border in order to end the smuggling routes and tunnels that are under the border there. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to operate fish farms. They're going to dig their own huge tunnel and fill it with water, and they're going to raise fish and shrimp, according to reports that we're seeing.
Well, first of all, I think that's a brilliant idea.
So they're going to raise, we're talking about 18 fisheries, and this is an attempt to end smuggling, and Hamas is already very angry about this. They're saying that this is a tightening of the grip of siege on Gaza. In fact, which it is. This is a, if this ends the tunnels,
it's actually a barrier of water that they can't come out of
and
there.
As we know, Israel controls the naval and air blockade, and everything pretty much goes into Gaza. So there's their economy is already pretty much non-existent. This is probably going to be another
blow to that one. Yes.
Off to Malaysia, Najib Razak, the defiant prime minister, says that he will not quit as Malaysia's prime minister during a national day. There have been mass protests across the country over the weekend, asking him, demanding for him to resign for a $700 million financial scandal. In his speech yesterday, he said that the protesters are showing a shallow mind and poor national spirit. And even the former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad came to these rallies. And he was a 22-year-old kind of despot himself, and now he's trying to get rid of the new dictator.
The new dictator. The thing is, though, that I find remarkable when we're looking at so much violence and around the world, that these demonstrations have been fairly peaceful.
Fairly peaceful so far, and we have to see if they're going to gain momentum and if it's going to continue.
I mean, let's hope it stays that way. Sadly, also peaceful demonstrations usually don't lead to much.
Yeah.
But if I'm putting it that way. But that said, it's remarkable to look at that at this day and age.
Yeah, people are really angry with him. He said that the money that came was a donation from the Middle East, and he later fired one of his critical deputies and 4 other cabinet members and the Attorney General that was investigating him. So it turns out that this guy, is really.
I love it. I don't know. about to say how very, I was going to say something like how very Putin-esque, but I probably shouldn't.
Two items I have for you from Thailand. We're staying with East Asia. Thailand has said that they have 2 more suspects for the, and they released their pictures, these guys, from the Bangkok bombing that killed 20 people, a man and a woman. The woman is named. Her name is Wana Swanson. She's originally from southern Thailand, but she is now in Istanbul with her husband. And she said that she's in Turkey with her baby and her husband, who is Turkish, by the way. And the police say that they believe that she will willingly come back to Thailand and to be questioned. The other man is not named.
Okay.
But the next headline I have for you from The Guardian, as you can see, is pretty interesting. Thai police are paying themselves a reward for one of the arrests they did last week. If you remember, they found an apartment with explosives and they arrested a person. So they're giving themselves $84,000, which is actually 3 million baht. We have some visuals of the Thai chief of police. His name is Somyot Phumpanmung, taking out wads of cash.
You got to try and pronounce that for me. His name is what?
Okay, I'm going to say that. Somyot Phumpanmung.
Phumpanmung.
That is the money. That is the money that he said. He showed in his press conference. And what he said, by the way, Somyot, he is a multimillionaire himself. And he said, 1 million baht comes from me. The other 2 million baht came from my businessman friends who do not want to be named.
Okay. And so he rewarded himself from his own money.
His own money, and his police officers. It doesn't say, by the way, if each of them is getting $84,000 or it's going to be.
Don't ask exactly.
If it's going to be, between the, I guess, 20 officers or something that they're each going to get a little.
And but the fact that there was also a ceremony that
they gave themselves,
putting the wads of cash on the.
And they kind of stack them up, We're
living in the wrong country. We are living in the wrong country. Yes.
And by the way, why does a multimillionaire want to be the chief of police in? I don't know. That's another story, I guess.
Power and money go together.
Very right.
Exactly.
Very right. Off to the Ukraine. There was some anti-autonomy protests outside of the Ukraine parliament. Autonomy of Eastern Ukraine, of course, which is held by rebels. One officer was killed in this protest, and 100 people were wounded. The parliament was about to vote on giving autonomy to the eastern region of Donetsk and Luhansk, which is held by rebels. This is actually part of the agreement, the Minsk agreement that was signed in February, even though we've still seen clashes since then of in the east.
No, in the east, and not only that, I'm really wondering where the Ukraine, Kiev. We dealt with that story, with the entire world did for a long time.
Yeah.
And looking at that, I mean, remarkable pictures, and this happened yesterday. Are we looking at? It's that's yesterday, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's all yesterday. I'm wondering if we looking.
That's the man that later. I think that's the man that later died from his injuries in hospital from this grenade that was thrown. This is, by the way, this is the first reading of this bill of giving them more autonomy. It looks like the Prime Minister, the President, actually has an uphill battle when it comes to this, to passing the whole agreement in his parliament. The whole agreement.
I'm wondering if that's going to, as long as we don't revert back to what we saw in Kiev over the course of many months. Yeah. Kiev, actually, all of the Ukraine, which was basically an entire, war between Russia and the Ukraine.
And in the East, it's been still pretty bloody this summer, by the way. But it looks like they're actually they've decided both sides to take a lull for the opening of the school day, like we're having here, and pretty much all over the world. They're kind of trying to keep it quiet
for the sake of the kids. Let's hold it up for a week.
Right.
Okay. Yes. And
Obama gave an interview to the Jewish Daily Forward, which is the most prominent Jewish newspaper. It's the first time he gave an interview to this interview.
The Forward. No, it's fascinating. This is hand in hand with, I think, actually, the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, if I'm allowed to theorize, and we are theorizing, giving interviews to Jewish lobbies in the United States when it comes to the Iran deal. So there's President Obama doing his own.
Right, and I can't say the interview was extremely interesting. Is mostly about Iran, stuff that we've heard him say all the time. I just want to focus on two things that I thought were interesting that you might also think were interesting. Jane Eisner, the editor-in-chief of The Forward, asked him a very interesting question. Does it hurt you personally when people say that you're anti-Semitic? And he said, oh, of course. And there's not a smidgen of evidence for it, other than the fact that there have been times when I've disagreed with a particular Israeli government's position on a particular issue. I wonder who he's talking about.
Who are we speaking about here? Can we just drop all the pretenses? Those two guys do not like each other.
I know.
Yeah, they just don't.
But she ended it with she asked him about at the end, after all the formalities. Her daughter wanted to ask him,
of course,
what his favorite bagel was. So he says, I've always
Sorry,
been...
that is, oh, wow.
I've always been a big...
It's like
it's such a, only
it's
a Jewish...
exactly,
right?
thank you.
But listen to his answer. Okay. I've always been a big poppy seed guy. So he said...
so is my daughter, by the way.
Okay, he said... but he used to buy the poppy seed bagel at H&H, which is across Zabar's. This could cause a rift. This could cause a rift in the Jewish community. Okay, if you know what Zabar's and H&H is, okay. Now H&H is since, by the way, it's closed down.
I know.
It's closed down. But he said he used to walk 40 blocks when he was a student in Columbia University, all the way down to H&H. But listen to this. And she asked him, "What do you like? What did you like on your bagel?" And listen to his answer. Just a schmear.
Just a schmear.
Obama said just a schmear. Lox and bagels okay, but generally just your basic schmear.
Just your basic schmear. People think like a schmear, yeah. Well, he speaks Jewish.
He speaks Jewish,
He does speak Jewish, yes. And one last one.
One last one. He's going on a trip, Obama is going on a trip to Alaska. He's basically going to talk about climate change. And ahead of his trip, he announced that the largest, the highest mountain in North America, which is in Alaska, Mount McKinley, will now be called Denali, Mount Denali. Which is what Native Alaskans, this is what Native Alaskans, the indigenous people of Alaska, called that mountain. And he's basically giving them, he's honoring the indigenous people of Alaska by naming them that after that.
Which I love, because Mount McKinley, okay? McKinley is the name of a white man.
The 25th president of the United States.
Thank you, exactly.
From Ohio. And Ohioans are very angry with Obama, including John Boehner, who is from Ohio, the head of the Republic, the Speaker of the House.
Oh my God.
He is very disappointed.
I find it so disturbing, though, because at the end of the day, when we're looking at what lawmakers and leaders of the world are upset about, the name of a tip of a mountain, at the end of the day, a very nice gesture, by the way, to the historic. It's a nice gesture.
It's a nice gesture.
Exactly. But, because there were people there before you came.
But you cannot anger the Republicans when it
do
comes
not
to
anger the Republicans, especially not in an election year, or maybe Donald Trump might end up as your president. There, we said it live on the air. Do stay with us, though. When we get back, a new survey reveals surprising new numbers about Democratic U.S. presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton's standing in the polls. She did not have a very good summer, so it seems we'll take a closer look. Stay with us. First, let's hear some more of the morning headlines. Good morning. It is still Tuesday, September 1st. Much to most likely the sadness and dismay of many students around the world. But it is September 1st, 2015, and we are going to move to Europe. In country where countries are still struggling to cope with the record number of migrants arriving at their borders seeking asylum. Pressure is mounting on EU policymakers to act following fatal tragedies last week that have heightened the plight of refugees. In fact, this is the largest refugee crisis in Europe that Europe is facing since World War II. Officials will hold a crisis meeting Monday in Brussels. Meanwhile, on the ground, hundreds of refugees have begun to arrive in Vienna and Munich by train this morning after days of waiting at the Hungarian border, despite Austria tightening security there. Yesterday, Austrian police found 200 migrants stashed in various ways on the crossing from Hungary by using on-the-spot vehicle checks. So security tightened on the borders, but people still flooding in. To break this down, we are joined in studio by I-24 News senior editor Ruthie Sinai. Good morning to you. Before we do that, let's take a look at the following report from Europe.
Thousands upon thousands continue to pour into Europe. Now the main focus is Austria, where many try to reach the border on their way to Germany and met the authorities. A train carrying hundreds of migrants which left Budapest Monday morning was detained at the Austrian border as Austrian and Hungarian police checked documents on the train. As the police continued to check vehicles at the border, 5 traffickers were arrested on their way to Austria.
Diverse focus points which the policemen are looking for. Since this tragic case last week, we also looking for vans, or we're looking for lorries with cooling devices.
As the doors are beginning to slam shut, hope of a possible solution to the crisis may come from France. French Prime Minister Manuel Valls announced a new refugee camp for 1,500 migrants to be built in the city of Calais in early 2016.
Notre responsabilité à tous, c'est ensuite de s'assurer que le droit d'asile.
Our responsibility is to ensure that the right to asylum, a fundamental right to which Europe is attached, to which France is particularly attached, is respected everywhere. Those who are persecuted in their countries, who are exposed to torture, oppressed, must be welcomed in Europe.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel also tried to come up with an answer to the crisis.
It is a question of asking who has a high chance of being able to stay and who has very little chance. These applications must be decided quickly, and then people must be quickly sent back to their countries of origin.
The European Union has called its interior ministers to an emergency summit on September 14 to discuss solutions to this unprecedented crisis. But it seems that despite the talks and summits, the European countries have not yet found common ground over the new migrant crisis. And as the discussion continues, the migrants remain firmly stuck in between borders.
We're first joined from Budapest, Hungary by Central Europe UNHCR spokesperson Babar Balak. Babar, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm just, I'm looking at what's going on in Hungary. Ruthie Sinai sitting with me in studio. And, we can't help but say that these scenes of so many people on trains and train stations in Europe are so reminiscent of World War II. It's a terrifying and very sad thing to see all these people looking to be saved. Hungary, for example, just when we were looking at, Austria, the tightening of borders, all these strict measures. What is happening right now on the ground for the people who are trying to get in?
I was at the border yesterday, the Hungarian border with Serbia. We saw the trickle coming in. I mean, it was hot, around 35, 36 degrees daytime, but people were continuing to come in. Women, children, elderly, people on wheelchairs. It's a desperate picture when you're standing at the border, and a lot of them, while they are being received, and they need to wait for more hours in terms of being taken to a police pre-registration center. And when you talk to them and hear the stories, these are desperate stories, stories of war, loss, and trauma.
There's actually a fabulous article in The Atlantic the other day saying that no mother puts her child on the water unless the land is unsafe. And I think that is seen in every one of those pictures. What do you think that Europe should be doing at this point, in your opinion?
Europe should be doing the right thing, and the right thing is standing in solidarity with the world's most vulnerable. As we are seeing, these people are coming from Syria. There's a conflict and a war in Syria. They are coming from Iraq, and they're coming from Afghanistan. So if we together, as collectively as world, recognize that they are fleeing war, then they would qualify to be refugees, and they need the same care.
And why are they not being qualified as refugees?
I think a lot has to do with politics. I'm sitting here in Budapest, Hungary. The way refugees are being presented here is just wrong. We're trying to do an outreach to the public here in Hungary and also in the European countries. They need to understand the reasons these people are fleeing. And it's very interesting. Well, the official policies are like this. When you go to the train station where a lot of these refugees and asylum seekers are stuck, there's outpour of generosity from the general public. Volunteers are coming in to help them. But what we need is from the politician is to at least say the right thing to their public over here. And I heard what was just being said. Yes, I mean, trying to find out who is a refugee, and if there is someone not in need of international protection, we as UNHCR have no objection if they are sent back to their countries. But for those who need international protection, it should be provided.
And I think when we're looking at these pictures of so many children in the hands of their mothers, the question really doesn't come up. But if you can stay with us for a couple more minutes, Ruthie, why is, putting aside personal opinions, but why is Europe not doing the right thing?
Well, I think it's a question of, somebody wrote an article, is it indifference or is it impotence? And I think it's impotence to a certain degree. I think this whole thing, this whole crisis lays bare the fact that the European integration, the European Union is really
it's not a union.
It's not a union. It's a union. It's a union up to a point, but this really exposes its flaws and the differences, the vast differences between Manuel Valls and the Western countries and the Eastern countries, of which, you know, our guest is in Hungary, right, where you've got the Jobbik Party and you've got other influential xenophobic, anti-foreign sentiment, which influences politicians. Now, I think
the anti-foreign sentiments, one can say, actually go across the board, across
yes,
the
but it's a question of how influential they are, right, and whether there is enough of a, you know, enlightened political structure to right, withstand these sorts of influences. And the other thing I think really is, and our guest put his finger on it, is really sort of this inability. People don't know, are they migrants, are they asylum seekers, are they just looking for a better life, are they economic migrants, you know, what are they? I think really this distinction has to be made.
Has to be made, and I'm wondering out loud, Sally, just to wrap this up, why is it so hard when you see, especially the people coming from Syria? I mean, for the love of God, when you see these mothers and the children.
There's no question.
There's no question that these are refugees.
But then you have others who are like Serbian, for instance, or for the former Yugoslavia, right, people coming in from those countries who are less threatened. You know, you have to be kind of hard-hearted about it and say, yes and these no.
Yeah, and sadly, you know, it doesn't seem like something, as the wars in the Middle East that are sending over these refugees, it doesn't seem like it's going to end, and more people displaced. I think only Iraqis, there are just 4.5 million refugees, and that's going for the
Syrians,
last decade. And Syrians, exactly, in the millions. I want to thank Mr. Belak from Hungary. Thank you for being with us this morning. Ruthie, same to you as we move along. In a completely different country. Moving on to the American presidential race. From the moment Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton entered the race in April, she was considered the party's presumptive nominee. Now, for the first time since she began campaigning earlier this year, that position may not be so secure. A Bloomberg Politics Des Moines Register poll released a few days ago shows Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders polling at 30% among Iowa Democrats. That's within single digits of Clinton's 37%. So to break down what this new poll means, we are joined in studio by I-24 News U.S. analyst, or should I say aficionado, Ami Kaufman. Before we do anything else, let's take a look at the next report about the Clinton summer and the race and break it down from there.
Oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
Trouble for Hillary Clinton in a state where she knows defeat.
Barack Obama will win the caucuses here in Iowa.
8 years after failing to win Iowa, a new poll of Democrats shows Clinton slipping, losing a third of her support since May. Her lead, now its lowest ever, just 7 points ahead of Senator Bernie Sanders.
This is not anti-Hillary Clinton. This is pro-Bernie Sanders and pro a message that says enough is enough.
Sanders is leading Clinton in New Hampshire, energizing liberals, particularly younger voters. And he's not the only Clinton alternative stirring excitement.
Hey, everybody.
Vice President Joe Biden surprises a jamboree of Delaware Democrats Saturday, building speculation he may get in the race. The new Iowa poll shows a door could be open for Biden. 14% of Iowa Democrats want Biden as their nominee. 13% remain undecided.
Very good magazine this week.
Meanwhile, a stunning turnaround in Iowa for GOP frontrunner Donald Trump. 3 months ago, 63% of Republicans viewed him unfavorably. Now, a complete flip. At the back of the pack, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who today clarified a comment suggesting immigrants be tracked with systems used by shipper FedEx.
And I don't mean people are packages, so let's not be ridiculous.
I'm going to put aside, you know, because our theme is Hillary Clinton, I'm going to put aside the question that is in my mind for, you know, and I keep asking this, I'm fresh back from vacation. Why is Donald Trump still running?
Because he can.
Clearly, somebody, okay, for us, you know, minions in other countries. But, okay, first of all, looking at Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, again, is this somebody who can actually destabilize her, what seemed to be a complete sure run for the nomination of the Democratic Party?
I don't think so. I think Bernie Sanders is a problem. I think Biden might be the bigger problem. Sanders has his own problem. Sanders is, you know, running an amazing campaign, but Sanders has a problem with blacks. he does not have the African-American vote. Now, you know what? I think we could see Sanders maybe taking New Hampshire. It's close to Vermont. It is a New England country. A lot of
it's a liberal.
It's a liberal country, predominantly
country,
white. You know what? He might even take Iowa. That would be actually kind of surprising. But you know what? I think it's going to stop. When it comes to states that are more where there are more black voters and there are more white moderates, not necessarily liberals, but white moderates, such as South Carolina, which is the next stop after Iowa and after New Hampshire. That's where we're probably going to see Bernie's surge probably stop, because they're in the late polls that we're seeing recently. Hillary Clinton leads with blacks there in numbers like 80-10 compared to Bernie Sanders. So he has a big problem. But
Biden would be a problem. Biden would, to me, and I have to say that it would be such a. It would be a nasty thing from the White House to do to Hillary Clinton. Can I say that like that, Ruthie? I'm looking at.
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you.
You know, in politics.
In politics, I needed to get the confirmation.
You know,
yes.
Biden would be really interesting because all the numbers are against him. First of all, it's already really late.
Yeah.
He does not have the infrastructure. He does not have the money. And I'll tell you what else he doesn't have, which is really important. He does not have what they call in the invisible primaries, the endorsements. Hillary is a very strong establishment front runner. She has almost the whole Democratic Party behind her. Right. The 538 website, which is run by Nate Silver, does this tally of how many endorsements contenders are getting. And she is just whipping everybody across the board. She has 313 points. They give 1 point for a representative, 5 points for a senator, and 10 points for a governor. Biden has about 11 points, and Bernie Sanders, nothing. Bernie Sanders is completely non-establishment as it goes. He does not want basically an endorsement. That's his you know, he has 0. Biden has 11, and Clinton's, you know, with all due respect to the email scandal, which is harmful, and Biden might run. I think that if Biden does run, it means that maybe he knows something that we don't know.
I mean, I have an assignment for you. Okay, listen, you mentioned the emails. One of the emails is headlined, it's Hillary, where are we on the gefilte fish? Okay? Yeah. I need to know what that's about.
What is
I actually have an answer. According to CNN, this is related to 9 containers of gefilte fish that were supposed to be shipped from Illinois to Israel, but had become embroiled in some kind of trade dispute. And Hillary Clinton was, there was a trade dispute with gefilte fish, and they were following this story.
Oh my word! I think we're going to all have to use that. That needs to become a slang word. Where are we on the gefilte fish?
But it's actually, you know, this is a really good point, because the emails really don't say anything. They're not really that interesting.
The emails, no, it's very.
It's all about what the Republicans do with it and how she answers it, and she's not answering really well. And you know, for a candidate to lose about a third of her support in 2 to 3 months, it's a dramatic loss. And
that's to me a bit of a disappointment. I'm saying this out loud, of the handling of that very Ken Starrish type campaign. So it's it's very reminiscent of that. Sadly, all the time we have. I don't know where we stand on the gefilte fish, but when we get back, the legendary Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream filmmaker passed away at his home in Los Angeles, age 76, following a battle with cancer. We'll take a look at his haunting heritage. Do stay with us before anything else. The morning headlines. Welcome back. It is still Tuesday, September 1st, 2015. This is still the morning edition on I-24 News, the place you should be. Now, we're going to talk about people who are no longer with us, but left an impact that we need to remember. I'm going to start with a very big loss. That's for me, and that would be Oliver Sacks. Many of you know him mostly as portrayed by Robin Williams in the Hollywood movie Awakenings, the neurologist who saves Robert De Niro's patient character. But if you just Googled him last night to find out what all the commotion is about, you would have wikied him as English neurologist and author who explored the human brain one patient at a time. He died of cancer. He was 82, and Sacks was best known for his books, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and Awakenings, as we mentioned before, which of course was turned into a film. But he had so much impact on, on the world, I would say, of medicine and literature. I'm joined in studio also by Avri Tzvi Rosen or Rosen-Tzvi. Do I mess it up?
Rosen-Tzvi. But you said it right a second ago, so now you had to go.
And now I butchered it. But there was actually this spree of reactions on the internet that I saw after Oliver Sacks passed away, and many people saying we're not ready for him to leave.
Oliver Sacks was much beloved. He was a friend of the show Radiolab. He was featured often on the show, and that I knew him from his books, and I knew him from the movie Awakenings. But I listened religiously to Radiolab, and it was a different side of him because he was a very kind, very curious man, brilliant. And if you go to their podcast, you can see he was actually getting ready for death.
And that's one of the things that, if you go to their, we don't need to go to their podcast. I'm going to go to one of his, actually, one of his big fans. And we're joined via Skype by Haaretz senior theater critic Michael Handelsaltz. Actually, I'm not going to butcher your name. Good morning to you, Mr. Handelsaltz, and thank you so much for joining us from your home in Tel Aviv. I think nobody may be more of the right person to explain to us how prolific was Oliver Sacks.
Well, first of all, he has published many books and articles, and he kept writing all through his life. But the main thing about him is not only him writing, but the subjects he was writing about and the way he had written about them. He is described as being a brain scientist, which of course he was, but he was a person who taught us all about our own humanity. He looked at each of his patients with his special cases. Sometimes people who you look at and you marvel how can they exist in a world of ours. And Sacks had a way of describing their predicament in a way which made you understand that, and by it understanding yourself, the way you function, the way you live in this world as a living person, as an entity, which part of it is your brain.
Now, you said yourself that he has changed your life. How so?
Well, I'll take one instance. He has a book which is called A Leg to Stand On, which is rarely mentioned among all of his many books, which are much better known. In this, he describes his own predicament. He broke a leg while climbing a mountain. He was a mountaineer of many things. He was a biker, a mountaineer, a swimmer, a weightlifter, whatever. Right. Anyway, he managed to get down, and then he had to reconnect with his leg again. And it's a story about a person and his personal history with his limbs, with his organs. Right. And those organs have their own life. And Oliver Sacks allowed us all to see into it, to feel into it, to sense it.
Right. No, and I know that, I know that he moved many people in the same way, just from the reaction and even reading something that you yourself wrote on social media about the man. Michael Handelsaltz, I want to thank you so much for being with us this morning about Oliver Sacks, a great loss, not just for, the medicine world, but also the literary world. Thank you for being with us this morning. Avri, another loss also this
the same day. Yes. Wes Craven, great director. He was known as a master of horror, but he wasn't just that. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay. But yes, so
yeah, we actually have a clip of his the best of. If you forgot who Wes Craven is.
Let's watch a bit from his trailers.
Here's the first motion picture to offer to the daring a look into the final, maddening space between life and death.
A night of terror, a day of vengeance, where no one was spared. No one. Kill the bear! The most shocking, terrifying film you will ever see, by Wes Craven, writer and director of The Last House on the Left. The hills have eyes. The lucky ones died first.
The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
Where are you?
Hello?
Hello.
Some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
I'm not sure where you're going with this.
J.R. Joe Reisert. Your father?
Where did you get that?
Grabbed it off your dad's desk next to your graduation picture. You tell the flight attendant and your dad dies.
What can I do for you?
She's just had a really rough day.
I actually saw that. That was Red Eye, right?
That was a very good movie. Not a lot of people watched it.
I did.
It was more of a thriller for him on a plane.
I watched that on a plane. That was the stupidest thing to put on a plane.
It's a very Homeric movie about two people. But let's start from the beginning. Okay, he died now at age 76. From cancer, but he was working until his final days executive producing movies. But yeah, he started in 1972 with Last House on the Left, which very tellingly is sort of a loose retelling of The Virgin Springs by Ingmar Bergman. He was a very literate man. He was a humanities professor.
No, I was about to say, because I would never connect any kind of influences seen in Nightmare on Elm Street to Ingmar Bergman.
Yeah, but he was a very literary man. He continued with The Hills Have Eyes in 1977, and then in 1984 he sort of gave a new license to the genre for the first time, because he did it again with A Nightmare on Elm Street, which was
I mean,
sort
I'm of the generation where that series of films was iconic. You know, it was just
it's still
huge.
iconic. You know, people on my Facebook, a common sentiment was like, Wes Craven, you can freely haunt my dreams forever now.
Freddy. Yes, okay.
So most people know him, I guess, from the 1996 film that started a series, Scream. We sort of reinvented the genre again because it spoofed it and was very, very like aware of it. But it was itself a horror film.
Yes, yeah, no, but it had this brilliant. This we also have Lital Shemesh with us in studio. Just because I'm going to open the discussion. Yes, hi. But because it opened, what I so liked about Scream was the fact that I think what we all remember is kind of the codes that he gave out to the audience of what it takes to be a character.
They talked about
if you have
horror
sex,
movies.
you die.
They talked about horror movies. And killers who are horror movies fans themselves. It's very 90s, very meta.
Exactly.
But he started that series, which grossed a lot of money. But he didn't like to be in the horror ghetto. In 1999, he directed Music of the Heart, which got...
oh my God, with Meryl Streep.
With Meryl Streep, which got her an Oscar nomination. That was him.
I had no idea.
And that movie didn't do very well. It was about a music teacher going to inner city kids in Harlem. It wasn't very successful, and he thought that people weren't willing to go to a movie he directed that is not horror.
No, it just wasn't very good.
Wow. Okay.
From an art family, we're very, very harsh.
He said in an interview after that, he said, "If I have to do the rest of the films in the horror genre, no problem. If I'm going to be a caged bird, I'll sing the best song I can." But he.
Yeah, it's almost heartbreaking.
He was a very, but he did a lot with what he had. As we said in Scream, he also directed New Nightmare, which was a movie on the set of a movie utilizing the Freddy Krueger myth.
Right, with the guy, with the actor who played him. I saw that as well.
That was a very good movie, and I'm not a horror fan so much. But I think Wes Craven is up there with John Carpenter as sort of the modern masters who defined this genre up until now.
Defined the genre up until now and set certain standards. And
a lot of people.
Entirely so. Avri, I want to thank you for that. I'm going to lock you in studio because it was a sad day. But I want to say that when people create so much, be it in the case of of Sachs or the case of Craven, the body of the work says so much about the life of the people. Exactly. Lital, try and beat that.
Hi, good morning.
Hi,
How are you?
You're here with science.
It's not a competition.
It's always a competition.
Okay, I'm sorry.
For anything and everything on research and science and whatnot, Lital Shemesh with us, what do you have for us?
Good morning. Yeah, so let's start with hangovers, and what's more suitable for a morning show than talking about hangovers and how to deal with it.
Definitely know. Okay, well, we want the tips. Avoid a hangover.
Yeah, so a new study shows us that you can try different techniques.
Yeah, drinking less doesn't work for me.
Yeah, so there have been many tales told of how you can prevent hangovers from drinking lots of water before you go to bed, eating greasy food, and some researchers from the Netherlands took a few hangover students. Let them 50% of them were trying to drink a lot of water, 50% was doing the whole Taco Bell, McDonald's, let's eat tons of food before we go to bed. There was even a research being published saying that if you drink drink pear juice before you start drinking the alcohol, it can prevent the hangover. So those researchers showed that none of that is helping. Nothing works. The only thing you can do is just to drink less alcohol.
Drink less alcohol is just saying, don't get fat by not eating.
I'm sorry. I just think I have a solution for this. It's not drink less. It's just clear your schedule for the next morning. That's all. That is going to just solve it.
And
yes.
if you're above 40 for the next 2 days.
Yes, thank you.
And enjoy your headache.
Your headache. Give it some. Give it the pride that it needs. Yes.
Yeah, but we have some good news. Another research talking about napping, and it shows us that a good nap or a nap a day could save your life. And this,
I've been saying that for years. Okay.
So this study shows us that people who tend to take like a nap a day during noon, it's actually helping reduce your blood pressure. It's fighting the whole aging process. And it's something that actually can do good for you. And we have a short video
that explains why you must nap today at noon. Good luck on that one. Yes, take a look.
Stage 1, slow eye movement begins, and if woken, you often feel as though you didn't even sleep. But as you continue into Stage 2, your brain begins to inhibit processing and ignores external stimuli that it deems non-dangerous in order to relax you and give you a tranquil sleep. It also begins memory consolidation, in which information you learned is processed. Waking out of these stages has shown benefits including increased productivity, increased cognitive function, enhanced memory, boosted creativity, and most importantly, feeling less tired.
Yeah,
You hear that, our bosses? We need a nap room.
Exactly.
Nap room.
That was my next line. Nap room, nap room, nap room. More productivity. Yes.
Like, that's why Google offices has that.
Thank you.
And also, the researchers say that you don't need to do like a 10-minute snooze or a 15-minute snooze. Allow yourself to make it longer, because the longer the nap will be, the more beneficial the nap will be for you. So a 1-hour nap would be more beneficial than a 10.
The Spanish people knew what they were doing.
Can you think what a 2-hour nap will do for my productivity? Phenomenal. Yes, and
also helping for aging.
For aging process, very important for anchor women. Yes. And what else?
The next study tells us that 25 minutes walk a day could add 7 years to your life. The research shows that exercise can delay the aging process, with experts suggesting 1 walk a day could halve the risk of heart attacks,
a walk could add a dog year to your life. Wow.
A dog year to your life, yeah. And especially between the ages of 50 and 60.
No, I think I have the sole plan for this. I think one needs to walk for an hour out of work, then come back to the nap, okay? You need to take a very long walk.
You can't drink a lot of alcohol, so I'm not sure.
But that doesn't really work.
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Okay.
So that's a happy one. But we're staying with the whole heart attack risk.
Yes.
And moving on to another study shows us that cold weather may increase heart attack risk. It's a research being held in Canada, and it checked the reason for high heart attacks cases, and they've checked literally the day then the specific person was having a heart attack, and it shows that in those specific days there were more cold weathers. The degrees was below 0 Celsius, and it shows a link between the heart attacks.
That's why we in the Middle East live longer, unless we kill each other in wars.
For us, it's like it's like the hot-blooded thing that makes us have.
Okay. On this very important note, we are gonna bid this farewell. But when we get back, September 1st is here. Students around the world are starting to go back to school. We'll talk to some students in Jerusalem as their summer vacation ends today. Israeli and Arab students going back to school together. A possibility of coexistence. Maybe we can do it in a younger age. Stay with us. First, the news. I-24 News Morning Edition on this September
1st.
Thank you.
The most important day.
The most important day of the year. For parents such as myself and Mr. Ami Kaufman, September 1st is when our vacation begins.
We
Yay!
did it. We made it.
I know, my God.
Survived.
Whew. Anyway, parents around the world have been waiting for this moment. Though children may wish this day will never come, it is September 1st. And back to school here in Israel and around the world, we are going to go live now to I-24 News editor Ron Friedman, who is toughing it out and standing live in Jerusalem at the IASA Israel Arts and Sciences Academy with some students who are about to start the new year. Ron, good morning to you.
Hi, Al. Good morning. Happy September 1st. End of summer holiday and back to school with all the jitters and concerns and nerves and relief that comes with it, I'm sure.
Thank you. Yes.
I just dropped my little ones off at kindergarten earlier this morning, and then I rushed over here to Jerusalem. We're here, like you said, at the Israel Arts and Science Academy. It's a special school, but like everybody else, they're celebrating the beginning of the new year. I want to take a chance to interview the principal, Mr. Itai. Your last name, sir?
Benovich.
Benovich. Thank you for joining us. So first of all, this is a big day for you. It's the first day of school, but it's also a big year for the school. You're celebrating 25 years today. What can you tell us about the school and what's unique about it here in the education frame here in Israel?
IASA is a school established 25 years ago by Bob and Mary Jane Asher and Rafi Amram. It's a national school, boarding school, from more than 100 different communities all over Israel, Jewish, Muslims, Christians, secular, religious students coming from all over the states and joining together to study in a very challenging atmosphere.
Right, you say challenging. This is a school, it should be said, it's for children or young people who have achievements. You have to pass certain tests to be accepted into the school. It's a school that focuses on excellence, right, in arts and sciences?
In arts, sciences, and humanities.
All right, I'd like to maybe interview some of your students now. Reem and Yotam, can you join us, please? Hi, thank you for joining us. Reem, we'll start with you. Where are you coming from this morning?
I come from Sejur village.
Speak up, please.
I come from Sejur village.
Okay, and for our viewers, where is that?
It's in the north of Israel, and it's a really small village, so it's near Carmiel.
Yeah, it has. It's a Druze village, right?
Yeah.
And is this your first year here at ISA?
No, it's my third year.
And how does this school compare to where you went back home in your village?
Well, this school it's more difficult from what I used to before I came to here. Also, it's always like you need to study more. You need to have a lot of motivation. But I mean, I never had that before I came to here.
And as far as the other students in the class in the school that you went to before, was it mostly Druze children, all Druze children?
Yeah, I study with all of us were Druze children.
And is there a big difference studying in a school here? First of all, it's a boarding school, but also it's with people that don't have the same background as you, that come from a different family, a different culture. How's that?
Yeah, well, students that come from a different culture, at the beginning it was really different and difficult, but today they're like my family, so it's really nice to be with different culture, not just with Druze children.
Glad to hear it. Yotam, maybe we can ask you a question. Where are you from?
I'm from Kibbutz Samar. It's near Eilat.
Near Eilat, so that's like a 4-hour drive away. Lucky you get to sleep over here at in the school itself, huh?
Yeah, saves a lot of time.
And I understand you're a senior. You're going into 12th grade. You're going to be graduating at the end of this year. What are your expectations for this year?
I expect to, manage to stand up to this difficult year. Hard to complete all of the exams.
Now, this is a school for children, high achievers. Is there a lot of pressure on you guys to do really well, a lot of studying, or do you have time to be kids and enjoy yourselves as well?
Question.
Well, there is pressure to do well in the studies, but I think there's also a lot of pressure to have a social life while you're doing it. Like, have fun with the other kids.
Okay. And we have a question from the studio?
Yeah, no. I just want to ask you, because to me, the idea of a boarding school is something that I'm very much warming up to as a parent. And is it hard to be in a boarding school is what I'm wondering, you know, for these kids, because they're away from home. I mean, it's something very British, and I always thought the British knew what they were doing, but is it hard for them to be away from home?
I'll take that question for Reem. Reem, we were asked in the studio, what's it like to stay in a boarding school away from home? How do you like that?
At the beginning, it was really different and really difficult to just wake up and your parents not with you. But today, I just used to just wake up in a room with 3 other roommates, and it's really fun sometimes to be just away from home and be by your own. It's
beautiful.
I mean, today I have my own life here, and I feel like I grow up very fast. So.
Well, you hear it. These young adults, very mature, very prepared here at school and to go into the world afterwards. Other than that, the school year here in Israel started off on its right foot. A brief strike, one-day strike apparently in the Christian community. 30,000 school children won't be going to school today because of budgetary concerns. But other than that, everything started off on the right foot, and we hope it'll continue that way.
I think the Christian Arab community, the budgetary concerns, very well that you mentioned that. Ron, I want to thank you for being with us live from Jerusalem at the Arts and Sciences Academy. And again, as we said, you know, the budgetary concerns for some mention them as second-class citizens, and that strike was well overdue in many ways. But boarding school, Ami.
You like that idea, right?
I love that idea.
Just send them off.
I think they need to be geniuses, which clearly my kids are.
In that school, yeah, they have to pass some tests, right?
Of course, they have to pass some tests, but my kids are very smart, and we'll work on that.
I'm sure.
Okay, this is the time for the smartest bit of the show. That would be the viral spiral that is the web review.
Yes, I'm going to start with actually that has to do with schools. This is a piece from The Guardian that went very viral because kids are going back to school in England as well and other places around the world. And if you Google it, it's called 10 of the best back-to-school apps for kids. And if you have an iPad, I really highly suggest looking at this.
Really?
I'm going to show you some screenshots of just 3 out of the 10, which I thought were interesting. This is a free app. It's called Endless Wordplay. And it uses monsters to teach children how to spell, count, and string numbers together.
Okay,
Another one is called Toka Lab. And I have actually a lot of apps from this company called Toka, and my kids love it. Really nice graphics and really easy to use.
Yes.
But this one I don't have. This one's about chemistry, and it's not free. It costs £2.50. But it teaches them about, you know, if you don't want to do science at your home and have things exploding, do this on the app, and it'll, you know.
That's actually brilliant.
It teaches them, you know, what happens to things when they're heated up and when they're cooled down or when they're shaken or
but
magnetized.
Don't they take that information then into the kitchen? They're like, ooh, this worked here. Let's try and do it there.
You're right. You might be a little careful there.
I'm thinking this is good. This is giving them ideas.
This is only for the app.
This is only for the app. It's only in the virtual reality, as your life will be most likely if you were born after 2010.
Exactly.
Yes.
And there's another one called the Cursive Writing Wizard, which kind of teaches them how to write, you know, with their fingers on the app. Teaches them letters. I have something that's very similar on my app, and it was really, really helpful for my kids when they wanted to learn the English letters. I haven't seen one in Hebrew, but
or in German, or in Arabic, or
in any language. I'm sure that you can find them. This one is apparently really good. It gets high recommendations here on the Guardian for spelling on the Guardian site. And there's some other really good ones. I really highly recommend taking a look at this piece that the Guardian put out.
That's news you can use for you.
Yeah.
News you can use for the parents out there. Ami, who knew you had it in you? And yes.
Viral videos. This guy is called Bat Dad, and he is another. You know, yesterday we spoke about
Bat Dad.
We spoke about Vine stars. Well, Bat Dad is a big star on Vine, and he put out this video compilation of his stuff that he does with his wife, basically him speaking in a low Batman voice, kind of scaring his wife Jen, who, according to BuzzFeed, she is the real hero, not him. Let's take a look.
She suffers this. Okay, let's have a look.
Let's take a look.
Jen, Jen! Jen, Jen, Jen! Are you ever gonna fold that? Don't drink that! It has artificial sweetener. Do you mind explaining?
Oh my God, I would kill him. I would so kill him.
It goes on for like...
I know Bad Dad, and I always thought to myself, I would kill him.
You would kill him.
I would kill him.
She has a lot of patience for this. The whole thing is
strikes,
it's like 3 minutes of, I think, about 30 different Vine videos of him something's
Does the
scaring
man
her.
have a job? Is he home? What's going on there?
He drives around with the mask on all over.
No, it's very funny, but if I were living with that, yeah. Okay, and?
We cannot have a viral web issue without Kim Kardashian,
Never,
right?
never.
She bowed to the power of the FDA. This is the headline from TMZ. And I'll tell you why. She has endorsed, she's pregnant. Okay?
Yes.
And she endorsed this morning sickness medicine called Diclegis. But
What is
she
it called?
failed.
Once again?
Diclegis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, or Diclegis.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Oh my God, that's a yes. Okay.
The FDA threatened to yank the product off of the market because she misbranded it. She did not put all the side effects, talk about all the side effects.
Which include what, death?
Well, I didn't get into that, but I'm not really not into that. But
that usually, with the side effects, that's the joke. Though, don't you always find that this will
kill
help you with
yeah,
this,
yeah.
but will cause or
exactly.
Yeah.
But she posted another Instagram photo and she cleared things up just because the FDA can threaten to do this. But I think it's a really good point that this is where the real money is for people like Kim Kardashian. For all she has to do is endorse something.
Let me say this at the risk of losing viewers, as a faux celeb, because she's a faux celeb.
She is a faux celeb.
What are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the real money is.
And I'm saying this just because I'm very upset that I myself am not a faux celeb. But
I think you should, bring some products next show and just endorse it and see what happens.
We're going to endorse I-24 News.
Yeah.
There we
Very
go.
well done.
Yes, and
for some reason you reminded me The Price is Right there. You remember that show?
Yeah, there we go. And moving
There's
on.
a Pew survey, and they surveyed 3,000 adults for this one, and you can see from the headline from Time Magazine, everybody hates when you use your phone at dinner.
Yes.
Here are the numbers. 88% of respondents believe it is generally not okay to use a cell phone during dinner.
But they all do it.
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
An even larger percentage, 94%, say cell phone use is inappropriate during meetings. 95% say they shouldn't be used at theaters, and 96% say they shouldn't be used during religious services. However, most of them say that they do use them. About 85% use them in social meetings and different gatherings. So everybody does not like it.
But they do it.
But they do it.
Have you ever had a lose it moment on your spouse or somebody sitting in front of you as they're dealing with the phone? Have you ever had that moment?
Yes.
Okay. What did you do? Because I took the
I think I've lost it once.
Yeah. No, I lost it by basically just taking the phone away from him and throwing it.
But it's been done
away.
to me as well, like vice versa. I'm also to
there you go. And we're still married to
full
them.
disclosure.
Okay. Yes. And
Board Panda, one of my favorite sites. This is a photographer called Ines Opifanti. He is from Hamburg, Germany, and he likes to take pictures of people mimicking their dogs. These are the owners and their dogs. Some of them are really good.
It. Oh, because they do say that after a while you start looking like your dog. Or is it about... Yeah,
exactly.
Very good. No. That's great.
Some of them are really good.
Yeah, that I'm not buying.
You're not buying that
one?
one?
This one is kind of... This is
I kind of like the eyes, the slant of
the slanted eye. This is good. This is good. This is uncanny. I need to take pictures with my cat.
There are a lot more of them, and I highly recommend seeing this guy's really good. Really good.
And
remember Cecil the lion, who was killed in I think it was Zimbabwe. I think he was killed by a dentist from Minnesota.
The dentist from Minnesota, and I think it's tragic, and I remember it very well. But I'm going to say the line I say all the time.
Yeah.
And that is, it was horrible that the dentist shot the lion. But
of course,
I ought to say that if the children of Syria were getting so much publicity as Cecil the lion, then maybe
these are the things that BuzzFeed and Jezebel deal with.
Yes.
Halloween is coming up. There's going to be a costume of Cecil the lion that you can buy. As you can see, this is Cecil the lion. I think it's going to cost about $30. You can buy that now. And they say, that website called Yanni says that part of the proceeds, part of the profits, are going to go to Zimbabwe, to some wildlife.
The Cecil the
World
Lion
Wildlife
costume, if you're going with a partner, does it come with a costume of a dentist next to you with a shotgun?
I mean,
we're doing the whole shebang.
You see all these crazy Halloween costumes. I remember last week we talked about Caitlyn Jenner costumes, like the Vanity Fair costume.
Yes, well.
Not her costume, of course. That's what she
wore.
wore.
We did not. I was on vacation.
You were on vacation. I'm sorry. For me, you're always here.
I know, of course. Okay.
One last one. Do we have some time? I hope.
Yes, one last one, quickly.
A video of a seal, a diver, and a seal giving him a belly rub. And look at the seal's face. It's just gorgeous how he's in.
Never mind. Cute animal video. Cute animal video.
Look at the seal's face.
Cute animal video. Let's take a look.
I love how he closes his eyes, kind of like a
like
dog.
that. I was mostly thinking like, dude, what are you doing? Yeah, get away from me. But Ami, it's the viral spiral. It is the web review. It's a pleasure to open and end the show with you. And it is the end of our show.
Wow, it happened. We're there
already.
already.
And September 1st, we're going to an empty house.
Yeah.
Do stay with I-24 News for the rest of the news of the day, and check us out tomorrow, I-24 News Morning Edition, where you should start your day. Au revoir.